Welcome back, everyone. I have another guest, a special guest today, Craig Meriwether, and we're going to talk a little bit about his studies, his adventure, his process, his path. I saw something, and again, in his bio and his dialogue of who he is about the hypnotherapy and the subconscious mind of how to get out of these things in advance of that. And I'd like to take a deep dive in that and for him to share his experiences with you on where we're going. But first, Craig, thank you for coming into the show, and how are you
Oh,
today? What's going
oh,
on?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you inviting me on and having this conversation. I know there's a lot of baggage to the word hypnosis and hypnotherapy, and of course we could probably have a 10-hour conversation and still, have a lot of questions that still could be answered. But I appreciate you inviting me on.
No, no, not at all. So what's you said the baggage? What's the one like misconception or stereotype or anything that goes with hypnotherapy that you want to debunk or that you want to address right off the bat?
Well, probably the biggest one is this aspect that is some sort of mind control or brainwashing. It's really unfortunate, just the way the movies have portrayed it or TV shows and things, because they use it as a way to move the plot forward. I mean, how are we going to get Jason Bourne to assassinate the prime minister? Well, let's hypnotize him. And it's not the way it works. That's not really a thing. You can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. And it's just a natural state of mind of just being a human being that we have a tendency for our minds to drift off and float away. You ever experienced that? Maybe a meeting at work. Remember maybe me, back in high schow math class.
I thought that was
Um,
ADD or something.
yeah. No, it's just being human. And there's a certain aspect around ADD that's going a little more prevalent, it's seeming like, but it's really just a natural process of the mind. The mind tends to wander off. That's why meditation it can be frustratingly difficult at times, even to long-term meditators, because you say, okay, well, hi, hey, how'd your meditation practice go today? Oh, so my mind's just wandering. I got problems with my parents getting older. I got children. I got work. I got business. I got school going on, and your mind drifts and wanders. That's just the natural state of who we are as human beings. And literally, the biology of it is just how fast your brain is operating. So, we've probably seen maybe like on YouTube videos or documentaries or something, this kind of electrical storm that happens in the brain, this lightning storm of brain cells shooting the little electrical pulses. Well, literally, how fast that happens determines what brainwave state you're in. The famous ones we learned about back in school were the beta, alpha, theta, and delta brainwave states. That it's just how fast the brain operates. Like you and I right now, we're having this conversation, we're engaged with each other, we're paying attention in this present moment, we're firing in maybe about 18, 20 cycles per second. But let's say, I'm back in high school math class and I'm taking notes because it's going to be on the test. I got to do well on the test next week, but it's boring for me, and my mind just starts to drift off. Well, I literally have just slowed down my brainwave. Say, I start thinking about the weekend and going to hang out with my friends and how much fun I'm going to have, or the vacation I took 2 years ago, or whatever. When I start thinking about, my mind drifts off into la la land. Well, I don't. Everybody's still talking. The teacher's still talking. Kids are asking questions or whatever, but I'm not paying attention to it. I don't hear them. Well, my mind is literally just slowed down, or my brain is what I meant to say. My brain is literally slowed down, and I'm now in the alpha brainwave state. I've altered my state of consciousness. Just being back in high school math, being bored watching a TV show, being bored at work. Uh, your mind drifts off out of the present moment. You've slowed down your brainwave state into a more daydreamy state of mind. You've altered your state of consciousness naturally, just being bored. And then, that state of not really being asleep but not being really awake, and mean, kind of getting sleepier and sleepier. Well, that's the theta brainwave state. Now, in the alpha brainwave state, you're firing about 12 cycles per second, down from 18. So you move from the beta to the alpha brainwave state. Moving down to the theta, you're in a more state of, again, not really asleep, but not really awake either. You fire about 6 cycles per second. If someone falls asleep during that meeting at work or back in high school, they're firing about 1/2 cycle per second. But the teacher says, "Hey, Craig, why don't you come up here and do the problem on the board?" Now I jolt awake and I look around, everybody's staring at me, and now I'm really nervous. I'm embarrassed. I don't know how to do the problem. I wasn't paying attention. Well, now I'm stressed. Well, I'm firing about 30 cycles per second because I'm in the stress response. I've just altered my state of consciousness 3 or 4 times, just being bored in high school math class. That's the natural state of being human. And everybody does this multiple times a day. So the kind of most biggest misconception is that we can take control of you, and turn people into zombies, and go rob banks and things. And you can't do that. Even with the shows you see in like Las Vegas, or comedy clubs and things, maybe YouTube videos, and people are acting funny and silly on stage, and they're dancing like Michael Jackson, or singing like Elvis Presley, or barking like dogs, or quacking like ducks. Every single person who got up on the stage volunteered to be up on stage. Nobody makes you, I mean, maybe you lost a bet or something, but you're going to be excused from stage because you're going to get stressed and not want to be up there. So you're not going to be a good candidate to do a show. And a hypnotist comes out, and it's Las Vegas, so shows are expensive. And so they got to do an entertaining show. Who are they going to pick? The introvert in the back of the room that's, sinking down their chair, hiding in the shadows? Or are they going to pick the extrovert who's jumping up and down, waving their arms, saying, pick me. I want to do the show." So it's really about your intention. You can't make anybody do anything you don't want to do. In fact, there are people probably listening who say, "Well, I tried hypnotherapy. I nobody, I couldn't be hypnotized." It's like, well, you probably didn't feel comfortable in that moment with that person and the environment that you were in, or maybe you're just body and mind weren't ready to do the healing work, and that's fine too. But you move in and out of this hypnosis state multiple times a day, down to that alpha and theta brainwave state. That's called the hypnagogic trance state. There's a fancy term to impress your family and friends at the next dinner party. And it's like you do it multiple times a day. Watching a TV show puts you in the hypnosis state of the alpha brainwave state. So if you can watch TV, then you can do this work too. And so again, probably maybe that was a long answer to a short question, but in terms of the misconceptions and the myths around hypnotherapy and this work, it's not about control. It's not about making you do anything. It's about what you're interested in healing, what you're interested in releasing and letting go of. Maybe it's unknown. That's okay. We're working with the subconscious mind, not conscious mind. This isn't talk therapy. And that's very important, very healing, very useful. But that's not what this work is. This work is of the subconscious mind. And by quieting down that conscious level of mind, just like being bored back in high school math class, or at the meeting at work, or watching a boring TV show and your mind drifts off, that's what we want. Because you quiet down that conscious level of mind and put it to sleep or give it something else to do, you can access the subconscious with your permission. Again, I can't do that on purpose to make you go rob a bank or something.
Yes.
Otherwise I could hypnotize my way into the UN, United Nations, and hypnotize everybody to create world peace. And I'd be that guy who ended war, but I can't do that. I can't get Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos to write me $1 billion check. It's because they don't want to.
Okay.
So this isn't making people do stuff. It's just if your intention is to create healing, this is uh, some great techniques to help you do that.
So, are there any dangers? You said that operating at the high frequency or the low frequency, are there any dangers in operating in those zones, or more than average, or usually, the person that operates there or operates at the low frequency? Is there any dangers in staying in those states too long, or?
But no, and it's not that you stay in those states too long. It's your body and mind will operate in a way that's safe for you. Now, and like here's a great example. One of the people I follow, and I do kind of continuing education trainings and go to and see him speak at conferences and things. His name's Richard Nongard. He has a bunch of videos on YouTube, and some of them are more lecture oriented, and some of them are more like here's a process that people can use to help relax and kind of restore and rest the body. And one of those recordings, or one of the videos on YouTube, I mean, he's doing just a process about 20 minutes long. And at the end, he does like one of those traditional standard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fully aware and alert kind of endings. And as he's saying it, he says, and now I'm going to count from one up to five. And on five, you'll be fully aware and alert to return to consciousness and go about your day feeling peaceful, calm, and whatever he said. And this video has been out for a long time, like 10 years. It's got like 1 million views on it. Well, he's going through the end of the process. It's like one, coming back to being fully aware and alert. Two, feeling peaceful, calm, and gentle. Three, returning to this place of reality. Four, feeling wonderful, feeling calm, feeling grounded and centered. And I just appreciate everybody for being here and listening to this recording. If you have any questions, please let me know. He never says five in the recording. 1 million people have watched this thing. There's not 1 million people trapped in hypnosis in some sort of zombified coma state. That would have been on the news by now. It's just
Or he's
people
that
came
good.
out of their state and they moved on with life and they got on with their lives. Again, this isn't like some sort of taking control, like and making people bend to your will to rob banks and assassinate prime ministers of other countries and things. It's not what this is. It's just a relaxed state of mind and body. And when you're done with that process, I've had people in the middle of a session just like, okay, I think I've done the healing work. I think we're done. Because they're done. And it's like, okay, let's talk a little bit and wrap up and we'll be done.
So,
You tell me what you want to
I mean, it's a shame that it doesn't work that way, but so
do.
what inspired you to get into this field? What was the transition that made you go hypnotherapy and just take that step into that direction?
It was my own healing work. I struggled a lot with anxiety and depression as a teenager specifically, and this is in the 1980s to date myself a little bit.
I'm there.
And there's no internet. If you wanted to do talk therapy, it's whatever person you can find in the yellow pages. Let your fingers do the walking through the yellow pages and find a talk therapist. Or certainly as a teenager, you're not asking your friends who's your therapist. Whatever book you might find at the library, or the bookstore. But again, as a teenager, you're not doing any of
Right.
that stuff. And even the SSRI drugs like Prozac and things, that didn't come out till the late 90s. And so in the 80s, I don't know, I just struggled through it. I didn't know any different. It's just the way I thought you were supposed to feel. But as I learned more about life, as I got older, I got a little bit wiser. In my 20s, I started working with personal development stuff. Like Tony Robbins was super, well, I mean, still huge, super huge.
Mhm.
Man, still doing arenas full of people. But he's becoming super popular in the early 90s with all his books, Awaken the Giant Within and all that stuff. And so I got big time into personal growth because I wanted to feel better. And one of the things that I started reading about in other people's books and articles and things was hypnotherapy. Like they say, okay, here's the 5 things you can do to change your life or to reprogram your subconscious mind. One of them is always hypnotherapy. I thought, well, these people I'm reading about and I follow their programs. They're always talking about hypnotherapy as a way to really clear out that trauma, that tension, that pressure, that hurt and pain. And as we get into the later 90s, that Prozac's coming out, and that really opened up the discussion about depression. It was okay to talk about it on the talk shows, on Oprah, on Merv Griffin, on whoever, on the morning talk shows, Good Morning Cincinnati or Good Morning Houston or whatever. You could actually talk about it now. You can go to your doctor saying, "Man, I've been feeling depressed." I mean, you walk out with a prescription for Prozac or
Right.
something. But the conversation was there now. And of course, the internet's coming out in the late 90s, of course, early 2000s. Yeah, we had our 14.4 modems that took 12 hours to download a picture, but we could have discussions online in the forums and things. And one thing that just kept coming up again and again was hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy as these great tools and techniques, so different than talk therapy. Again, important, helpful, useful, but this is different. And it was a way to access the programming within the subconscious mind, maybe put there as a child through something traumatic that happened. And it was a way to create healing and resolution and new programming to move forward. And so I was using it in my own life, and I became so fascinated with the healing I was doing and just consciousness and the subconscious mind that eventually I kind of pivoted later in life. I had the opportunity to kind of shift, and I got some great training to become a hypnotherapist, and been doing it ever since. It's kind of the short story of it, but it's just basically it's the idea is like I saw the healing that I created within my own life using these techniques. And hypnotherapy in of itself is like a umbrella term for a lot of different techniques and tools of the to use with the subconscious mind. But I saw the power of my own life, of the healing that happened. And I just the more I studied, the more I read about it, and then I found this wonderful school to go to great training, and just one thing led to another. And now here I am.
It seems like not only did you go on this journey in the process of what you're doing and how to preventative measures, what steps now with you being in the expert level that you are, what steps now if you hadn't taken the hypnotherapy, if you hadn't have put in the work, if you hadn't, like, you can see things now a little differently, you can process things now
Yeah.
differently. What parts of your life have you been able to prevent based upon the hypnotherapy and the work that you've done, and that you can see the little self or the old
Yeah.
self, like what steps have, like, those just blocked out?
Well, it's like when you struggle with anxiety and depression, and you struggle for years, you may find ways of unhealthy ways of self-soothing. That's where, drinking comes in, or recreational drug use, or smoking, or even, other issues of taking yourself out, and, just to put it a little politely. Um, and and by finding resolution to a lot of the hurt and pain I was going through, I didn't need those ways of self-soothing because they're easy. I mean, look, I mean, the better ways of self-soothing is going on a run, or going to a yoga class, or going to the gym, or going to the martial arts class, or playing music, learning, playing guitars. But those take time. It takes time to drive across town to go to martial arts class, or go to the gym, or go to spin class, or whatever the thing is. The reason a lot of us find shorter ways of feeling better, like overeating or snacking with sugary foods or carbs, or more intense things like drinking, or drugs, or things like that, is because you get the quick results of feeling better, the dopamine hit, the sugar rush, let alone the other aspects of it. And so what I found with this work is that by creating the healing within the subconscious mind, changing that programming on how to feel safe within myself and within the world, I didn't need those crutches anymore. And may have saved myself a lot of years of distress and trauma through, you issues of drugs and drinking, and that path sometimes leads to when people who struggle with anxiety and depression and other things. So it's just powerful tools. And what I find fascinating about this work is that I'm not here to fix anybody. And hypnotherapy in and of itself is not fixing anybody. You fix yourself. You heal yourself. Because who better to know what the problem is than you? And that's, I think, some of the struggle people find with talk therapy. Not to disparage talk therapy, I think it's very useful, very healing, very helpful. But you oftentimes are using that conscious level of mind to logically analyze a situation that may be behind the veil in the unconscious, to try to figure out why you're feeling like this, to have somebody else try to figure you out. But who better to know you than you? Who better to know what the actual problem is than you? Because that's what you're trying to protect yourself from. You already
Right.
know what the problem is. Yes, maybe it's in the subconscious mind, maybe it's in that filing cabinet within the subconscious mind, but the file is there. You know what it is. And the warning signals of anxiety or anger or stress or fear, warning you that there's danger in your life, because we're out, hiking in the back country of Alaska, and we turn the corner and there's a grizzly bear there. Yeah, we're going to get some warning signals of anxiety and fear right away. Good.
Right.
We need that, and we immediately want to run and hide and protect ourselves. Or the rattlesnake in the desert, or whatever, maybe fire coming towards your house or something, wildfire. Yeah, we want that stress, anxiety, that warning signal that we need to protect ourselves and get to safety. Well, kind of the problem with being human, not a problem, but one of the aspects of being human, it's a better way of saying it, is the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And so sometimes, and this is most noticeable to say when somebody's having a nightmare in the middle of the night, you know, it may be very realistic. Maybe there's a veteran having a PTSD dream about being back in combat, being back in war, getting shot at. I mean, how frightening is that got to be? Even though the war their war was 30 years ago. They're safe and sound in bed, and yet the body will turn on the stress response because they think they're back in war. Or it can be something super ridiculous and super silly and stupid, like a cheeseburger is chasing down the street, throwing coconuts at your head. It's dumb. It's never going to happen. Either scenario, it's not going to happen because you're safe and sound in bed, but your mind thinks you're under attack. And even during deep sleep, will turn on that stress response. The brain creating adrenaline and cortisol to dump into your bloodstream, your heart's racing to get it to the big muscle of your arms to fight the big muscle of your legs to escape, because it has this safety protocol of shoot first, ask questions later. So even in deep sleep will turn on the stress response, changing your entire physiology because you're getting chased down the street by a cheeseburger. So you can imagine what's happening in your waking world, you know? And so all this process is happening within the subconscious mind. And if somebody's struggling with anxiety or fear or anger or resentment, whatever it may be, your subconscious mind knows why you're doing it. That's turning on the stress response, the fight or flight response is a very inefficient way to run the body and the brain. It's hard work. It takes a lot of energy. And in and of itself, the body and brain would rather not to do that. But if it feels you're in danger, real or imagined, if it feels you're in danger, it'll turn it on because it needs to armor you, it needs to protect you, it keeps you safe and protected. That's its main job. And yes, it's running your immune system, your digestive system, and your healing the cut on a finger and the scrape on a knee and holding on to habits like walking and tying your shoes and all that stuff. Its main job, the subconscious mind, is to keep you safe and protected. But it can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. If you're have real trauma in your life, or maybe it's imaginary things going on in life that, while scary and dangerous, it may not be, it may be due to something that happened a long time ago that is now influencing that anxiety and stress. Your body and mind knows why you're doing it. Because people, even if they're anxious a lot, they're not anxious all the time. Not when they're watching their favorite TV show or listening to music or hanging out with their friend or something. They're not anxious all the time. So the subconscious mind knows when to turn it on and when to turn it off. So it knows why it's doing it. And so that's the power of this work. By quieting down that conscious level of mind, altering your state of consciousness, which you do anyway multiple times a day, we're just going to do it on purpose, move you down that alpha brainwave state and ask. Maybe it's just as simple to ask you what the problem is or what needs to be done about it. That's how powerful you are. You know what to do about this. That's just like you don't have to think about healing the cut on a finger. You know what to do to heal the cut on a finger. If you ever had that experience, like so, say, hey, where'd you get that big scrape on your arm? You're like, what? I don't see any. Oh, I didn't realize that was there. Subconscious mind knew there was a problem, started the healing process before you were even consciously aware of it. Digesting your food, you don't have to think about that, beating your heart. It knows what the problem is and it knows what to do about it. It's just maybe holding on to it because it thinks it's protecting you. That's what I find just fascinating about this. And why I ended up getting into this line of work, to kind of go back to your question a little bit earlier. It's just extraordinary healing that you do. Again, I'm not fixing anyone. If somebody gets in a car accident, if I get in a car accident, take me to the doctor. If my appendix gets inflamed, take me to the surgeon or take me to a hypnotherapist. But in terms of some of this hurt and pain, this trauma we may have experienced a long time ago, even as little kids, we're holding on to it to armor ourselves to prevent from maybe it happening again. You're allowed to release that and let it go. It's like holding on to a bowling ball. If it's not helpful to you anymore, don't hold on to the bowling ball. You can drop it and let it go. And that's the power of this work. And it's quite extraordinary. And unfortunately, and also kind of getting back to one of the original question you asked, it's like it's unfortunate there's so much myths and misconceptions about this being mind control and brainwashing. It's like, no, it's these great techniques to help you release and let go of hurt and pain and build that confidence that you may be looking for, because you can do it. We're not doing anything differently than you're already doing. You're already moving in and out of these states of consciousness. You're already programming yourself for, procrastination or lack of confidence. Let's program yourself for motivation and confidence in giving that speech or that presentation or whatever it may be. You're allowed, and it can be very, very, very powerful work. In
It's
just a
funny.
short amount of time.
It's funny how you mentioned going to the gym and doing certain things, because I have never been more focused and more clear than when I'm running.
Yeah.
When I'm running and I am like just either I'm on the treadmill or in the trail, I am laser focused and I am so inspired not only to complete the race, but to do other things in my life.
Mm.
And I get rushed with like, adrenaline and emotions and like mental clarity and focus. And like I have a to-do list in my head and I absolutely blow myself out to the point that when I'm done, I gotta pass out. Like I'm tired, I'm done. Like my mind is gone. I can't focus. I'm lucky if I make it home, if I'm driving home, go take a shower, and then like I'm done for the rest of the day. Like I can't even think. But like I actually go into like a hyper mode, and then I'm out.
Right.
But it's so addictive, and it's a
Yeah.
great rush. It's pushing me, and I mean I have like blueprints of pages in my mind of the things that I want to do, and I mean, they're laid out like 90-day plans.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
just all there. So that's like the best time to catch me. I'm going to start having to do meetings now on a treadmill because like my mind is just like really focused. So I want to kind of, ask you this one question. Again,
Yeah.
the question we ask, everybody is because the reason I ask this question is because I feel like everyone comes from a different walk in life.
Yeah. Of course.
And
Yeah.
and those walks, sometimes steps are more relative to others than they are, the common, you ask a teacher why they teach, you ask, somebody why they play basketball, you ask, and those things, those answers per se, they appeal to only a certain type of people.
Mm.
So I want to know what motivates you.
Yeah. I would say like the first part of my life, what motivated me was to heal and to get better. I didn't know, especially getting out of high school, you're 14, 15, 16 years old, you're graduating high school, 17 or 18. I didn't know how to do that. I just knew I wanted to feel better. And so I started that process of looking and searching. And, back in the day, you just kind of had books and the three television stations on your TV. And so gaining knowledge and wisdom was limited. And of course, as the internet gets out there and stuff, I learned more. And so I would say the first part of my life was motivated by my own healing, by my own hurt and pain, and wanting to find a way to heal that. And I think probably the second half of life, and second half as I head towards 60, I guess that means I'll live to be 120. The second half of life, it's just like sharing that with people. And yeah, you're right. There's 8 billion people, and there's not one size fits all in terms of how to do this work. You get to this extraordinary state by running and doing that extreme physical intense exercise. Somebody else may do it just by sitting still by meditating. But yeah, there's all sorts of different ways from A to Z to find that state of flow and a way to move in life and get inspired. I find it through doing this kind of work of hypnotherapy. And so what motivates me is just, wanting to be the best person I can be, leave the world a better place. And in my little kind of corner of the world, this is how I do it by, finding ways of accessing my subconscious mind to create change.
Great answer. So, where can the people find you? I want you to, I found you, of course, different means, but like, where can people find you? Like, where can they dive in or get to know you or talk to you one on one or go through the
Yeah.
process? Like, what do you have out there to like the open door and the welcome mat? So this is your time to like plug all of that. How can
Yeah,
people reach you?
absolutely. Well, the best way is just the website. I live in Flagstaff, Arizona, but most of the work I do is with people online in virtual sessions over Zoom, which we started a few years ago during the whole COVID thing.
Great.
And whether it's talk therapy or relationship counseling or life coaching or hypnotherapy or doctor's appointment, what research has shown is Zoom sessions work as well as in person. And in fact, there's some research that shows Zoom sessions work better than in person because people feel relaxed and comfortable in their homes. And then when they're done with their appointment, they're at home already. You don't have to drive across town. And so I've been working mostly over Zoom sessions. And so even though I live in Flagstaff, Arizona, I work with people around the country and around the world. Worked with somebody recently, professional basketball player in Iceland. I worked with somebody in Tahiti um, who was on vacation. He was American, but it's like, it's works very well because again, I'm not here to fix anybody. And so the name of the practice I started is called Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy, which is a mouthful. But if you just went to Google and typed in Flagstaff hypnosis, you would find my business there, Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy. Got a YouTube channel, but there's those are the ways to find me and my email address or phone number. And I'm happy to talk with you if you want more information about this stuff and how hypnotherapy can help with the specific changes you want to create. And whether email or call in or Zoom call or whatever, I'm happy to answer your questions.
Well, Mr. Craig Meriwether, thank you very much for not only gracing me with time, but educating me a little bit more about, hypnotherapy and the healing benefits and the aspects of it and the possibilities. So now I'm going to be looking at all the Hollywood shows, scratching my head now, and
Yeah,
just, I'm a huge Marvel comic fan,
yeah.
and now I just ruined the Winter Soldier plot for me,
No, no,
but
sorry.
it's okay. No, but I greatly appreciate it, and I think you're doing wonderful work,
Well,
and
thank
I
you.
want to support that as much as I possibly can. So if anyone's out there, reach out to Mr. Craig Meriwether, and he'll be happy to take care of you.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. Any final thoughts and comments?
Well, what one thing I like to leave with people is what you practice, you get better at. Now, of course, that's great if you're learning the guitar or piano or dance or martial arts or into walk as a kid. But if you're practicing anxiety and fear, resentment and anger, you're going to get really good at that. So it's time to kind of assess and become aware of what are you practicing and what would you rather have instead, and you're allowed to have it. And hypnotherapy may be a great way for you to achieve that.
Awesome. And we practice here the whole 24 hours better mindset. So thank you very much,
Yeah.
and I'll catch you guys on the next one.
Every day is a blessing. The time we spend together, all we can do is promote change. 24 hours better.